right, good afternoon, everyone. Over the past few months, as you know, I've been representing Hughes Bradley Manning in a military court-martial. And that representation has involved an unprecedented charge, really, a charge which was aiding the enemy for a simple act of providing information to you, journalists. That's what resulted in an aiding the enemy offense. Under the current administration, an unauthorized leak to the media of classified information is viewed as being tantamount to aiding the enemy. The government-wide crackdown on whistleblowers and the extension of this crackdown to journalists threatens to stifle the flow of information that is vital to our public. And it's vital for information that we not only have a need to know, but oftentimes have a right to know. While we were successful in avoiding the aiding the enemy offense, the fact that the government pursued this offense, the fact that the government let this offense go forward even after it was clear there was no evidence of any intent to do so, should sound an alarm to every journalist. It should sound an alarm to every concerned citizen. The case of the United States v. Bradley Manning is a watershed moment in history for freedom of the press. We need to decide what freedoms and individual rights we are willing to give up in the name of national security. And we've heard a lot recently from the Obama administration about oversight. We've been told to trust that the oversight mechanisms that are within the executive branch are striking an appropriate balance. We've been told that they know what is in the public's interest to know, as opposed to what is national security and cannot be revealed. You have to ask yourself, is the government striking an appropriate balance? The ultimate role of oversight in America has always belonged to the American people. And it is only to the extent that the American people can be informed as to these matters that oversight works at all. And there are too many things we do not know about our national security apparatus. We don't know how it works. We don't know the extent of its reach. And in order to close this gap, we need a free and vibrant press. We need members of the press who are not potential subjects of criminal investigation for receiving information, which is their very job to do as watchdogs of our government. In order to close this gap, we need whistleblowers like PFC Manning, people who are not afraid to stand up and speak the truth, and to risk their freedom for the ability to keep us informed. In order to close this gap, we need a public that cares. We need a public that is concerned about what is happening. We need all of these things because, make no mistake about it, the cancer of overclassification is threatening the very fabric of our free society. Overclassification hinders debate. It hinders what we know about our government. It hinders finding solutions to common problems, and that is, how do we keep our way of life in a post-9/11 world? PFC Manning was one of the brave Americans who was not willing to remain silent. Instead, he decided to provide us with information that he believed would spark reforms, would spark debate, and he provided us with information that he believed might change the world. Due to his decisions, he has been called a traitor. He's been accused of having blood on his hands. He's endured 3 years in confinement, many of that in unlawful pretrial confinement that was specifically designed to break his spirit. He's endured what is now evident to everyone, a baseless aiding the enemy offense that at the time carried the death penalty and then carried life without the possibility of parole. And now he is enduring a 35-year sentence. The time to end Brad's suffering is now. Time for our president to focus on protecting whistleblowers instead of punishing them. is now. The time for our president to pardon PSC Manning is now. Early next week, I will file, on behalf of my client, PSC Manning, a request that will be routed through the Secretary of the Army, through the President, through the Secretary of the Army for the President. A request that the President pardon PSC Manning, or at the very least, commute his sentence to time served. And I want to share with you PSC Manning's statement that's part of this request. And so I'll read it to you. The decisions that I made in 2010 were made out of a concern for my country and the world that we live in. Since the tragic events of 9/11, our country has been at war. We have been at war with an enemy that chooses not to meet us on a traditional battlefield. And due to this fact, we've had to alter our methods of combating the risks posed to us in our way of life. I initially agreed with these methods and chose to volunteer to help defend my country. It was not until I was in Iraq and reading secret military reports on a daily basis that I started to question the morality of what we were doing. It was at this time I realized that our efforts to meet the risks posed to us by the enemy, we had forgotten our humanity. We consciously elected to devalue human life both in Iraq and Afghanistan. When we engaged those that we perceived were the enemy, we sometimes killed innocent civilians. Whenever we killed innocent civilians, instead of accepting responsibility for our conduct, we elected to hide behind the veil of national security and classified information in order to avoid any public accountability. In our zeal to kill the enemy, we internally debated the definition of torture. We held individuals at Guantanamo for years without due process. We inexplicably turned a blind eye to torture and executions by the Iraqi government. And we stomached countless other acts in the name of our war on terror. Patriotism is often the cry extolled when morally questionable acts are advocated by those in power. When these cries of patriotism drown out any logically based dissension, it is usually the American soldier that is given the order to carry out some ill-conceived mission. Our nation has had similar dark moments for the virtues of democracy. The Trail of Tears, the Dred Scott decision, McCarthyism, and the Japanese-American internment camps, to mention a few. I am confident that many of the actions since 9/11 will one day be viewed in a similar light. As the late Howard Zinn once said, there is not a flag large enough to cover the shame of killing innocent people.
Hear, hear.
I understand that my actions violated the law. I regret if my actions hurt anyone or harmed the United States. It was never my intent to hurt anyone. I only wanted to help people. When I chose to disclose classified information, I did so out of a love for my country and a sense of duty to others. If you deny my request for a pardon, I will serve my time knowing that sometimes you have to pay a heavy price to live in a free society. I will gladly pay that price if it means we could have a country that is truly conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all, and we put in here women and men, are created equal. And with that, I will gladly answer any questions, and I know there might be a few, so raise your hand, I'll point out.